Hello, and welcome to Decoding Life, a podcast aimed to help teens navigate their way through major crossroads while making life-altering decisions. My name is Aishani, and I'm the host of this podcast, and today we're going to be talking to Ms. Des, an INS teacher and a PE coach, who's had an amazing experience and a lot of things she can share with us.
Hopefully. Looking forward to it. Thank you for having me on your podcast. Very excited.
Okay, so I think a lot of people already know about your background, but could you please walk us through the main highlights, what's happened in your past?
Okay, well, I went to University of Miami, went to high school in California. I'm a first-generation American. My dad's Dutch, my mom's from Canada. My dad worked for an oil company growing up, so I traveled quite a bit growing up, almost like a military brat, as they would say, mostly to South America. So went to school in Guatemala, Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, California, Canada, and graduated from high school in California, and then had a full scholarship to University of Miami in Florida for track and field and cross country, and spent 4 years studying criminal justice and history, and then joined the police force in Austin, Texas, and was a cop for 15 years. And then came over here and worked with the military, ATIC, and the police, and supporting the precursor to national service here in the UAE, and then found my way to Raha to help out on campus here.
So was this something that you knew you were going to go into, like military services and all that?
I pretty much knew probably since grade 8 that I wanted to be in some type of law enforcement-based kind of experience growing up. And I think when we were in 8th grade, we did these personality profiles. I won't forget it. And even before the personality profile, I probably watched too much TV, like Magnum PI, and what else did I like to watch when I was a kid? Like TJ Hooker was like a show with like LA Cops, and Dragnet, and Charlie's Angels were like all my favorite shows. So I think probably it had that kind of in my brain to a certain extent. So yeah, I knew from a very young age that that's what I wanted to do.
So I think getting into the armed forces, the police, requires a lot of discipline and a lot of training to get into. So how did you find yourself? Was it easy to go through that? How did you face your struggles?
I think for me, growing up was something that created a very strong foundation for discipline. When I was in high school, we had to do 2-a-days, so train in the morning, train in the afternoon. That continued in university. And I think having the discipline of sport and being with teams and being accountable to other people besides myself created really, really good opportunities to develop myself as a young person, to be disciplined, but also to be a follower, but also to take up the mantle of leadership when necessary. So definitely sports was a big part in helping me manage my discipline throughout academics and, in life with the military and stuff.
Yeah, so you mentioned being accountable to others. So do you mean this as in playing team sports where you're held accountable? Or?
Absolutely. I mean, because again, if you weren't doing what you needed to do in class, then your coach would say, yeah, you can't participate or you can't play. Our team sports in high school were all PE classes officially, so it wasn't like you just couldn't turn up. The last lesson of every day from 1 to 2 was always PE, and you would, instead of going to PE classes like we do here, we would have to go to join our team. So in high school, I ran cross country, I played soccer, football, and then also ran track and cross country. So if you screwed up, you just didn't get to kit up with your team, and then the coach would be like, sorry, it's on you, and then your team would end up holding you accountable for not doing what you needed to do. And I think that being accountable to others besides yourself was a big part of it. And again, also you have that expectation of fulfilling the expectations of your family and your parents and the way they raised you. And I think, I had a really strong parent group that supported me to make sure I was doing what I needed to do as well.
So with reaching goals other than your sports and everything, because I think you had a very clear idea of what you wanted to do from a very young age. So obviously you had goals and you needed motivation and consistency for that. So how did you find that motivation? I think there's a lot of different ways that you can motivate yourself. Obviously, I think that's a big discussion often that we have is who's responsible for our motivation? Is it some teacher or coach or your parents that are required to motivate you? I don't think that motivation is something that needs to come from others. I think motivation is something that
has to come from yourself internally, although certainly people have to help you create an environment that's motivational, that kind of gets you a lift up. But ultimately, that motivation has to come within. And I think that my parents, my coaches, my friends, all of those things created an environment that made it easier to stay motivated. And I do like to win, and I think that's that internal motivation to win and to be the best that I can be has always been there. But then at the same time, you know, my dad wasn't like, oh, you have to come in first, or my mom wasn't like, you have to come in first. The big thing for them was just always do your best. And if you've stepped away knowing that you have done your best, you know, that you've literally put it all out there, then the outcome, whether you're first, second, third, fourth, whatever the outcome is irrelevant, so long as you can honestly ask yourself, have you done your best? And if you have legitimately and honestly done your best, then the outcome, like I said, shouldn't matter. And to my parents, it didn't, and that helped to be, you know, help me be more motivated.
So obviously that's something that I agree with as well, and I think that's necessary for a lot of people to incorporate in their lives, finding that motivation within yourselves. But then sometimes you also fail at what you're trying to achieve. You go down, you don't manage to show up, stuff happens. How do you pick yourself up from that?
Well, I think we talked about this a little bit before, and I think that for me, that to me isn't a bad thing. I think falling down, I think failing, you know, falling flat on your face, that's the only way you ever really learn. And I think that having the people around you to support you to, you know, to get back up, that's more important. But again, the only way you're ever going to learn is to make mistakes, to fail, to fail miserably. It's not who you are when things are good that define you. It's who you are when things are like totally crappy, you know? Because again, can you still be the good person? Can you still do the right thing? Can you still get out of bed and go to school? Can you still do your homework? Can you still go to train? Can you still stay true to yourself even when things are horrible? That's really who you are. So, you know, fall down, make mistakes. I think that's a big part of it. Instead of beating yourself up and going, oh, I'm not going to get out of bed today, is the opposite. No, I must get out of bed because I need to learn. And I think that's, like I said before, I think the IB curriculum is awesome for that, because you guys have to reflect. You have to take a big pause and go, yeah, I could have done that better. You know, yeah, that really sucked. But you know what? What can I do to make it better? And I think that's a good thing. Failing is fantastic. 100%. 100% support people making mistakes and failing.
Okay, that's completely different. Normally when I fail, I'm like, oh, great, I failed. Now what do? I really don't feel like doing anything, and then stuff just goes downhill. But I think definitely implementing that in my life could definitely help me, and I think a lot of people could also benefit from that. Do you think there's any experiences that you've had in your career or your school life that you think helped shape your personality and mindset towards failure, consistency, and motivation?
You know what? I've had a lot of experiences, like a lot of random experiences, but I think probably the one that I keep coming back to is when I was in probably maybe eighth grade. I was very competitive in track, and I hadn't lost a race. I hadn't lost a race in forever. And if I had lost a race, it was an event that wasn't my bread and butter. So my bread and butter events when I was in eighth grade were like the 800 and the 1600 meter. And I'll never forget it. I was in this race. The girl's name was Kelly Patterson. We'll never forget her name. She ran with Las Virgenes Track Club. And, you know, usually the way it worked was like you had the first race of the day was the 1600 meters. So, and at this point I was undefeated. Like, I was good. And I was running against her in this race, and man, she spanked me. I mean, she just wiped the floor with me. And I hadn't lost a race, and as I'm running, I'm getting more and more upset. And as I'm finishing, I have a complete meltdown. Like, I was crying, I was carrying on uncontrollably, and I see my dad, like, coming out of the stadium, like, out of the stands, and, you know, coming across, and I'm thinking he's coming to, like, give me a big hug and give me a cuddle and, like, oh, poor you kind of stuff. And instead, in front of everybody, all the other athletes, the other coaches, he, like, grabs me by the ear. It's like old school Dutchman, right? Grabs me by the ear and, like, in front of everybody, I'm, like, following him. He's, like, pulling me by my ear and pulls me underneath the stadium. And he looks at me and he goes, I am so disappointed in you. You don't ever disrespect your competition. You don't ever disrespect your sport. You don't ever disrespect your coaches or your event or your family by carrying on like a loser. Okay, you're gonna lose in life. This probably goes back to the whole fall on your face stuff. He's like, but the only thing that you have control over is your attitude. And he said, don't mess all that up by having a horrible attitude. And he said, if you ever show that disrespect to your teammates, your coaches, the competitors, the event, the sport again, you will never compete again. I will not allow you to do any other sports. This is horrible. You're going to go back out there. You're going to congratulate your opponent. You're going to congratulate, the other athletes on the field of play. You're going to go apologize to the judges. You're going to go apologize to your coach and your teammates, and I will never see this from you again. That has shaped my life forever. And it will continue to shape my life, because in my mind, I feel like, that's really what it's about. It's not about winning or losing. It's about doing the best you can do, and then respecting those and that have put time into you to get you where you are, and then respecting the people that are out there with you every day. And that stays with me in everything that I do, from being a teacher, a police officer, a coach. It just that has always shaped my life. And I've told the same story to my children. They know the same thing. So to me, that's probably one of the experiences that has always stayed with me.
That is actually really scary too. I think that was a very hard experience from what I can tell.
It was really hard. It was really, at the time I was like petrified and mortified, and you can think of all those feelings, like the elephant stepping on your chest.
Yeah.
I felt like an elephant was stepping on my chest that day. And again, to have to go out there after everyone literally saw my dad yank me off the track by my ear, and thinking that he was going to give me a hug, man, that was a tough lesson, but man, was it a good lesson.
So I think in the moment, even if you feel really bad, it's going to work out in the end, and that
absolutely, you just got to keep,
you're going to be fine.
You're going to be fine. I mean, there's a lot of other things that are a million times worse than falling on your face and losing and stuff like that. Just got to dust yourself off and get back up, and hopefully people have the support systems in place to allow them to do that. That's important.
Yeah. So that was a lot to process.
That's a lot. We didn't have that story last time.
Yeah,
we did a little bit different story that time.
Yeah, so I think moving through life, we went through one piece of advice you would give. Definitely pick yourself up and
fall on
show
your
up.
face. Oh yeah, definitely.
So when you're also reaching goals, I think another thing a lot of people lack, I also lack this when I'm trying to reach my goals, is consistency. Mm-hmm. And I really struggle, and I think a lot of people also struggle with keeping up with whatever they want to do for an extended period of time. How did you manage to do that in your life? And is there any tips?
I think I would say definitely have to find your passion. Being consistent isn't just about the routine of things and just doing it over and over and over again. If the thing that you're doing every day is something that you love, that's taking you in a direction where you want to go, or you have this end game, having those goals, having a purpose, and staying on track with that purpose, I think that's really important. And I think a lot of you guys struggle with finding whatever that purpose is. And I think having a purpose, and again, knowing from a very young age that I had this interest in law enforcement, it was easier to stay the course because I kind of had this purpose in the back of my mind. And whether, again, the purpose with law enforcement, but also the purpose with being a competitor, being an athlete, that was always kind of in the back of my mind. But at the same time, I wasn't just focusing on, my purpose is to make money and have a good career making money. It was doing something that I actually had a very significant interest in. And the more interest you have in the thing that you're doing, the easier it is to be consistent. And a lot of people would say to me, well, what did you do? I'd say, well, did you like being a police officer? And I often told people it wasn't what I did, it was who I was. It was a part of my being, my personality. So it wasn't like something that I was just kind of going to get the job done and get a paycheck every day. It was something that, it was really who I was. And I think that's kind of the energy that I've tried to take into being here on campus. And I think that one of the things that came up quite regularly with, people around campus is like, well, why do you spend so much time, or why are you doing this, or why are you doing that? And I think it's the same thing. It's not something that I'm doing anymore. It's something that I am. This is the person. And someone from my previous job in the U.S. had said, you've basically turned this group of young men, when I was coaching football, or the young women, they're almost like my cadets. So my last assignment at the police academy, I was a cadet instructor for 5 years. And when I was at the academy, I taught a range of subjects. But a big part of it was that kind of esprit de corps, the camaraderie that we needed to develop in this unit to make them understand the importance of keeping each other safe and protecting each other. And I think that energy I've tried to bring into being here on campus. And it's not something that I'm just doing anymore. It's something that I believe in, that I am. And I hope that that's, communicated indirectly to the students by the way I present myself on campus. I hope, anyway. That's my mindset.
Yeah,
hopefully you feel that way. You're in my class, so who knows?
Yeah, definitely. I think you weren't my teacher.
Sarah's in the class.
Yes. Definitely before this year, I hadn't had you at any of my... No, you didn't teach any of my subjects until this year. So I've heard about you, and I've heard people saying that Miss Des is like really into whatever she does. And some people weren't a big fan of that. Some people were. Until I met you, I was like, okay, you're like one of the best teachers I've ever
Thank you for saying
come up with. Like, there is a lot
of
great teachers on campus.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a spaz. That's all right. I'm good with it.
There's a lot of great teachers on this campus, but I think you're one of the most invested ones because you teach both INS and you're like a coach.
So PE too. PE. Grade 8 PE,
so, yeah. It's a lot of investment in time and effort.
Yeah.
So I think at this age and teenagers, I think it's all about finding that passion rather than, if you find your passion, then you work towards it. But then a lot of us are still trying to find it. And in a world of devices and distractions and all this stuff, it's really hard. A lot of teens actually face this problem where they're just stuck on their devices and not actually getting up and doing something that helps them work towards a goal, or at least find a goal.
Yeah.
So,
I think that's an issue for sure. And I didn't have that when I was a kid, right? So when I was growing up, there was no phones, like even computers. There was no laptops. You had a landline in your house. You had a word processor at home with a dot matrix, whatever printer. It wasn't something that you used regularly. I learned to type when I was in high school, and I learned, basically how to type on a computer, but it was just so different. There's so many distractions for you guys. You guys have so much on your plate, and there's so many things that are just like bouncing off your head. And I think that everybody taking a big, deep break from some of that stuff is healthy. Even me. I do find myself on my phone quite a bit. And, and again, it's almost like you need to, because like I got Teams on my phone. I got my school email on my phone. I got to communicate with my kids, through Teams on my phone. And I think that it's almost like you feel like you need it so much that you lose sight that maybe you should take a brain break from that doom scrolling that goes on. And I think it affects kids in their sleeping habits. It affects them the way they interact with their peers. I think if I could pick one thing that I would like to see changed on campus, I'm sure everyone will hate me for saying it, but is to have a lockbox for your phone, where you put your phone in a lockbox when you come to campus. And it's in with your advisor, and if you need it for a class, you check it out for your advisor. The art department, I know Miss Lees and I have had this conversation where she said, well, no, they use it so much for like design and art and drama and things like that. So how can you take it away? I said, well, the option would be simply the art department says, well, students are going to be needing devices this week, and that, if you come into advisory in the morning, then you don't have to put your phone in the lockbox. But that way, if parents do need to reach out to their kids or whatever, yeah, great. But otherwise, the phone stays in the lockbox. You check it in the morning, you collect it in the afternoon, or you check it out when you have a class. So I think, and again, it could be in a cool little lockbox with the charging cable or whatever. And I think that would be a great thing to do. And like I said, I'm pretty sure everyone will hate me for saying that, but sorry, I think that would be awesome. And people, instead of spending their entire day, with their ears plugged in and their phones out in front of them or their devices out in front of them, will spend more time, actually having conversations. And I think, again, we talk about ATL skills, people's inability to communicate these days because they spend so much time on their devices is epic. So, yeah, that would be one thing I would really like to see changed on campus. Sorry, all you campus kids.
So for someone who's watching this and like they find themselves scrolling through their phone all day, and obviously this
Doom scrolling.
yeah, doom scrolling, and they're still, because they can't wait for the school to take action. They have to take action from themselves, and it's finding motivation from within. What's the first step in your opinion of getting started and just finding out what they need to do?
I think just they have to put the phone down. I mean, at nighttime they need to not even have it in their room. Take the phones out of the room, take the laptops out of the room, buy an old-fashioned alarm clock. You know, that you have to actually push the button on the alarm clock. Get the blue screen out of your room. Nothing that basically draws your eye to that space. It's bad for your brain. You know, when you're organizing your study time, study breaks, like if you're studying for 30 some odd minutes and then taking a study break, the thing that you shouldn't go to is your device. You shouldn't, like, your break shouldn't be your device, because it's not, your brain isn't resting. You need to take a step away from the device, you know, go stare out the window, you know, go for a walk, do something where you're completely not plugged in. You know, I think, like, you talk about how, like, humans have evolved and everything else is like, I think at some point in time, you know, instead of having an arm, we're going to have like a charging cable, you know, like an extension that like plugs into a wall socket or something, where this thing is like actually stuck to us with our phone. So just like unplug yourself, and when you have a study break, if you've been on your device to study, if you've been on your computer to study, put it down, go for a walk, don't even watch TV, get away from the screen. Go to the kitchen, make yourself a snack. Don't use your device to like find a recipe. You know, do it the old-fashioned way. You know, pull out a recipe book or just have a sandwich. Just get away from it for 20 minutes. Go have a conversation with a friend, you know, or not online either. Like, go talk to your siblings. Go throw a ball. Go kick a ball. Go pet the dog. Go sit with the cat. Just do something besides being anywhere near a screen, and allow your brain to just shut off, unplug. I'd say that's the first thing. You know, get off the device.
You know what I really loved was that how you said, go for a walk, but without your phone. Make a snack in the kitchen, but don't use the recipe from online. Yeah. That really shows us how dependent we are on our devices and how that affects us.
My kids will hit me for saying this, but like my daughter, she goes into the kitchen to cook. Don't get me wrong, she's an amazing cook. She likes to make her breakfast and her lunch, and you know, she's really invested in cooking for herself. But no lie, she's got her phone in there. She's got her ear pods in, and she's got her phone. And there's like these handles on the kitchen cabinets, and she tucks the phone in there, and she's in there, and I go in there, she's laughing, and she's having a great old time. While she's cooking, I'm just like, come on already. Can you not do that? You know, just unplug. And she's like, well, I'm on a study break. I should be allowed to do what I want to do. I was like, but you're not really, because your brain is still going, you know. It's just, you got to turn it off and just legitimately rest your brain. And, you know, that'll hopefully allow you to, you know, stay motivated when you got to get back into the session. And, you know, like I said, go with some dumbbells and go, you know, press some iron, go do some squats, you know. Use the TRX, whatever, do something, just get off the phone. 100% break from any blue screen. Don't even read. And that was my daughter, the other daughter, she likes to read. She pulls a book out, but your brain isn't resting. Let your brain rest. Give yourself IB's tough, man. Give yourself a brain rest.
I think I need to do that too, because when I go for a study break, I either read or I write something or I do something that I want to do for myself, but that's not really giving my brain a break.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people also do the same thing. I'm definitely going to try that today.
You know, try to go to the kitchen and make yourself something, and without any device. Just go make yourself something, make a snack, have a drink of water, you know, eat something healthy, and maybe in advance think, what can I make today? And that might be part of your study break. There's something good to eat. You know, something healthy, not junk food like chocolate and stuff, but go in and make a really good sandwich or a salad or something, and you know, something along those lines. Absolutely, go for it. That's what I say. Without your phone, without a recipe.
Definitely. So this has actually been a really long episode. So just to recap, because that was a lot of information. We went through your career, your background. We went through failure, consistency, motivation, finding that motivation from within yourself. We just went through phones and devices and how we need to take a break from all the blue screens and just do something outside of that. And I think that's pretty much all we went through. That's a lot.
And purpose. Got to have
purpose. Yes.
Got to find a purpose and do something for yourself, and not just what everyone else wants you to do. Just do what, you know, when you're doing it, you know, love it. That makes it easier, you know. Not what you do, but make it part of who you are, and that allows you to have a lot more passion for sure. Even if it does seem like you're crazy half the time.
I think a lot of people also online, they're like, in my day, this was not something you should do, like artists especially. And later they found out that it's actually because sometimes you don't see a career path in it until you actually are in the career path. So like, I think there's a quote from Steve Jobs, you can't connect the dots looking forward, but you can connect them looking backwards.
So I haven't heard that quote before. That's a good one.
Yeah, just go through it.
I might have to put that on the bathroom wall for the staff, because I'm in charge of the staff bathroom and making it engaging, and I have to find a quote of the week. So I might put that up. Inspired. I'll take a picture of it and share it with you guys when I put it up. All right.
Okay, so this is great conversation.
Thanks for having me on your podcast again. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Sorry I took a lot of your time.
Oh, no, it's fine.
Okay,
if the audience has any more questions that you would like to have another conversation with Ms. Des or any other staff at school, then please say so in the comments. And yeah,
shout out to the football team and everyone that participated in the Attic Cup this weekend. Girls under 17 team, first place. That's
good
my
to
last
hear.
Shout out.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. Appreciate it.